everybody, welcome back to my channel. I have had several friends ask me about the carnivore diet lately, just wanting to know basics, what my husband and I are doing, how we have gone about doing this. We have been on the carnivore diet now for 140 days, I believe, which is quite amazing. And we are still going strong, pretty strong. We have figured out by now what bothers us, what we don't enjoy eating because it makes our body hurt. We tend to shy away from those things. We also still are trying to eat very low carb. Thought I would do a quick video. I had friends text me, and it's difficult to share all of this on a text message. So I'm going to do this video. I thought that maybe you guys would enjoy it here on YouTube as well. And then my friends can go check it out on YouTube and watch it there. I will put in the description box my favorite resources here on YouTube for the carnivore diet, where I have found most of my information, so make sure you go check that out if you are interested. I did do a live not too long ago about this, where I talked about a lot of things, and I'm making this video kind of off the top of my head. I didn't do a lot of prep work for it, but I'm going to share with you what my husband and I do. So starting out first thing in the morning, we normally do not eat breakfast. We did this morning because it was a special morning. It is one of our kids' birthdays, and I was going to make her some pancakes, and she also is following this way of eating. And my husband has class, and so he just asked if I would make him some as well. And then I saw him eating them, and I was like, those look delicious. I'm going to have some too. So I made some for all of us to eat. So we had carnivore pancakes for breakfast this morning. Before we had our pancakes, on a typical morning, I will drink a cup of coffee, or two or three, and I have butter. Sometimes, not all the time. I will put like a tablespoon or a teaspoon and a half of butter in my coffee. I also like to have heavy cream in my coffee, and I do not measure that. I just pour out as much as I want to have and wait for the color of the coffee to be right. And then I will drink that in the mornings. I usually have, 2 cups, 3 cups. Sometimes I will add some real maple syrup of like a teaspoon per cup. It's not a lot if I'm feeling like I need something sweet. So sometimes I have real maple syrup. I did not begin that way. When we first started eating this way, I had just cream and butter in my coffee, and that was it for a long time. Only recently have I started introducing maple syrup in my coffee when I want something sweet. So the mornings begin for me with coffee, cream, butter. My husband starts his morning with a chocolate caramel element packet. There is a link in the description box for those. If you are interested, you can go check them out. The chocolate caramel is our favorite kind to have hot. They also have hot chocolate salt or just chocolate salt. That one is okay. We do like the caramel one a lot better, but that way he gets in some electrolytes first thing. He can enjoy a hot drink without drinking the coffee. He doesn't drink coffee a lot. Coffee gives him heartburn, and so he doesn't drink that often. He hasn't had a cup of coffee in quite a while. So he starts with the electrolytes in the morning, the chocolate caramel electrolytes. And he used to put cream in there. He doesn't anymore. He does still put butter. So he's got butter and his electrolytes and some hot water, and that is his morning drink. Then for lunch, we usually have lunch around noon or 1 o'clock. So we've got a good fasting window going now. When we first started, we were used to eating all the time, and it took a little while for our bodies to adjust and get adapted to this way of eating. So we ate whenever we wanted to, as long as we were eating what we were supposed to have. And you can do that. Eat as much as you need to. Eat breakfast until your belly is full. If you have to eat 12 eggs to get full for breakfast, eat your 12 eggs. I promise it will eventually level out. You will feel like you're eating a ton of food at the beginning, and that's okay. Just eat until you're full, eat until the food doesn't taste good anymore, and then stop eating. So sometimes I will have like a boiled egg at about 10 o'clock if I can feel that I'm getting hungry. It just depends. For women, hormones have a big play in this, and so different times of the month I feel like I need to eat something earlier than lunchtime, but typically it's lunchtime before I eat. Lunch can be a variety of things. I will usually just cook whatever meat the kids are eating, and I will make some extra of it so that we can just have the meat. Mondays now, because we've been doing this for so long, we will typically go off the diet and eat tater tots and chicken nuggets or corn dogs, whatever the kids are having. Tuesdays is our date day, and we go to McDonald's because that is the cheapest place to get hamburger patties, just the meat. And we now take our own cheese with us when we remember, because cheese is ridiculously expensive to buy at a fast food restaurant. So we will just have our hamburger patties and our cheese, and that will be our lunch. My husband will eat 10 hamburger patties, not the quarter pounder ones, the smaller ones. He has 10 of those, typically with 4 or 5 slices of cheese. I normally can eat 6 hamburger patties, and I will usually have 6 to 8 slices of cheese. I like mine extra cheesy, and that will be our lunch. And usually once we eat that, now at this stage of this diet, of this way of eating, I don't even want to call it a diet because I don't think we're going to go back to eating the way we were. So this is just the way we eat. At this stage, that is typically enough for me for the day. I do not eat dinner usually. Most days I am down to eating 1 meal a day, and that's typically just my lunch. I do have, the coffee with cream and butter in it at the beginning of the day. Sometimes in the afternoon I'll have some ice cream, but for lunch, if we're going out to McDonald's, that's what we get. We don't really go to any other restaurants. It's so expensive, and I hate going and paying that much for just a piece of meat, especially when I have freezers full of meat at my house that I can enjoy, cook the way I like it for much cheaper. So when we go out, we go to McDonald's. Unless we're going to go with friends, then we will do something else. But McDonald's is what we go to on our date day. When we're home, I've got a list of some things that we enjoy eating. I did write this down, and it's important to remember too with this way of eating that you don't have to always eat breakfast only at breakfast time. We often have breakfast for lunch and breakfast for dinner. Because it's quick and it's easy and it's nutritious. And so this is my list of meals that I have written out here. I just keep this on my counter. I've got breakfast burritos. I use the egg wraps for those. We just have breakfast sausage, scrambled eggs, cheese, and the egg wraps. Those are hard to find. I've only been able to find them at Aldi here, so they may be difficult for you to find depending on where you live. You can make them yourself. I have tried one time. I was unsuccessful and I didn't try again. But I probably could figure it out if I really wanted to. You also can have just scrambled eggs. You could have eggs with cheese. You could have eggs with sausage by itself with cheese. There's a lot of options with eggs. You can have boiled eggs. You can make deviled eggs. The way I do deviled eggs, I don't use mayonnaise. I use Laughing Cow cheese and mix that in with my yolk with a little salt and pepper and put that back inside the boiled egg. So eggs have several options. Let's see, this says hamburgers with cheese and chaffles. We like to make chaffles for our hamburger buns, which is, we use egg whites and mozzarella cheese, mix those together, cook them in a waffle iron, just one of those little round ones so that you've got a little round waffle, and those work fantastic for hamburger buns. So that's what we use when we have hamburgers. I do now use sugar-free ketchup on my hamburgers. I don't put a lot on there. It doesn't take much. And then I also sometimes will have some pickles because pickles don't bother me, and it took a little while for me to do that. I did go several months without pickles, and I just enjoy them and they don't bother me at all, and so I add those in when I want to have them. Steak and shrimp. When I do cook a steak or a type of meat, I typically try to cook 2 types of meat, or have like a hamburger with a boiled egg. It just helps you to feel like you've got a side dish and you're not just eating the same thing over and over. So it gives you a little bit of variety. So I buy some shrimp when they are on sale, and when my husband and I have steak, sometimes I will cook us up some shrimp, just a little handful for each of us. We don't cook the whole bag. It keeps it affordable, not expensive. It's not our entire meal, but it gives us a little bit of variety. The next thing is cream cheese chicken. Now, chicken is not as fatty as beef is, and so if you're going to follow the carnivore diet, you do want to try to eat a lot of beef. Beef is super nutritious. It is the most nutrient dense food that there is. And that's what you want to consume the most of. But sometimes we have chicken, and cream cheese chicken is so easy. I just throw some chicken breasts in the crock pot, put a couple bricks of cream cheese in there, let it cook down, mash it all up, and shred the chicken with my potato masher and eat it just like that. The kids like to have theirs with noodles or with rice, but I like it just plain the way it is. Eggs with the sausage gravy. I do this, I make scrambled eggs instead of having biscuits, and then I make some sausage gravy, which is just breakfast sausage cooked in my cast iron skillet. I dump in the heavy cream that I want for however much gravy, and then I will also do some cream cheese in there to thicken it up a bit, and I just let that cook down until it is a little bit thicker, like I want it to be, and then I spoon that over the top of the scrambled eggs. So good. It's one of my favorite things. Cheeseburger soup. This is a recipe. Let's see, we are right here. Cheeseburger soup. The cheeseburger soup is a recipe that I have. You could find it anywhere online, but basically I have narrowed it down to the hamburger, and then I use the chicken broth or the beef broth. I also do the milk in there, and then I'll just put the cheese in there. And so there's no vegetables added to it. I will sometimes add like some onion powder because onions are not something that bother me. Garlic bothers me, so I don't put any garlic. Do some spices if you want to have spices. You can go without spices for a while if they bother you, and just to figure out which ones are not fitting well with your body. But then you can introduce them back in, which is what we have done. So cheeseburger soup is super simple. You just take all the veggies out of the cheeseburger soup and use the chicken stock, the milk, and the cheese along with your hamburger, and it's delicious. The kids even enjoy eating it that way, and so they have requested that I don't add the vegetables anymore to the cheeseburger soup. They like it just the way it is without the vegetables. Meatballs and meatloaf, those are super simple things. I have made a batch of bacon cheeseburger meatballs. I leave them raw, freeze them in portion size baggies, and when I want them for lunch or dinner, I bring them out, pop them in my air fryer, cook them for 15 minutes until they are done. They are crunchy on the outside, completely cooked on the inside. They're very delicious. So that's a good option, something easy you can make ahead of time. Using ground beef, those are good budget-friendly options. A lot of these are. Steaks, I know, are expensive. If you're eating one meal a day, a steak is not as expensive. But if you're eating more than one meal a day, steaks can get expensive. And so it's good to have ways to use eggs, to use ground beef, to use sausage, and chicken. Here, chicken is cheaper than beef, and so a lot of people around here eat chicken. Chicken crust pizza. This is something we try to have pizza once a week. I'll go through stages. The kids will kind of get tired of it. But when I made pizza for my husband and I will make it out of a chicken crust. You can look this up. It is canned chicken, some eggs, some cheese, and it makes a very, very good crust. The kids who have tried it, I know it sounds weird. It kind of weirded me out at first, but it's very good. The kids that have tried it really enjoyed it. So that's an option. You can look up a recipe for that. Crab rangoons is another thing that we like to make. We use imitation crab meat and cream cheese. We don't add anything else, just the cream cheese and the imitation crab meat for the filling. Then we will take some shredded cheese and sprinkle it on our pan, cook it till it's crunchy, and then you put the filling on the inside and fold it over and eat it that way. So good. Carnivore cheesecake. This is another recipe that I have found online. I got it in the Facebook group, but it's really easy. I think it's just basically eggs, cream cheese, a little bit of like sweetener if you want to use that, some vanilla if you want to use that, some salt, and then you bake it in the oven. Very simple. Alfredo with egg wrap noodles. Alfredo sauce is made traditionally is carnivore. It has cheese, cream, butter in it, and that is something that I have made in the past. You can also slice up your chicken and have your chicken with it, and then you can use the egg wraps as noodles. You just roll them up, slice them real thin, and throw them in your sauce after your sauce is done cooking, and turns out really delicious. Makes you feel like you are having a very decadent meal and you are not missing out on anything. I also have beef stroganoff with egg wrap noodles. You can also eat the beef stroganoff just plain by itself. I made this the other night with some ground beef, and I also did some cream cheese in there and some heavy cream, some salt and pepper, and I just made a gravy with hamburger in it, and then I put it over the egg wrap noodles, and it was good. And then I also like to just eat that without the noodles as well. And then I also have on here deviled eggs and boiled eggs. Boiled eggs are super easy. They're very cheap, and that's something that my husband enjoys and I enjoy. So it makes a good, quick, protein-filled snack. So we, along with the animal products for the carnivore diet, we also make sure to consume a lot of salt. something you want to do. Electrolytes are something very important. When you're not having carbs, your body tends to lose all of its water. You lose a lot of water weight the first week or two of doing this diet, and so it's important to drink your electrolytes. We also drink coffee and tea. We do occasionally have a diet soda or like a Coke Zero or Pepsi Zero or whatever. We do use some sweeteners. We will use Truvia often, Swerve sometimes. Yes, Swerve is correct. I got confused between Swerve and Splenda. Swerve, I also do now use real maple syrup. Research that if you're interested. I have just heard really good things about maple syrup and its effects on insulin levels. So also we add in some herbs and spices to give us a little bit of variety. Now, when we first started this way of eating, I struggled quite a bit. After the first couple of weeks, you despise meat. You get to the point, at least I did, I despised it and I didn't want anything to do with it. And my husband was so kind and knew that I was struggling and I needed some help with that. And so he came home with a bunch of carnivore seasoning blends, I guess is what you would call them, so that I could have a little bit of variety with my meat. And so we have both enjoyed those, and they have been a blessing for me to be able to continue to do this. But I think the key for it is to find things that you enjoy and to meal prep and make sure you plan ahead, because I know that I get to the point that I am so hungry, I will eat anything I see and it will completely throw me off of all of the work that I've been doing. So it's really important to plan ahead and have the correct food ingredients in your house so that you can cook and make whatever it is that you need to make, and not feel like you're starving. One of my main tips is to plan ahead, do a little bit of meal prep if you need to. If it helps you to cook 5 pounds of hamburger at the beginning of the week, and then that way you have that in your fridge, you can pull some out, you can warm it up in the microwave and eat it. Do that. That will be a blessing for you trying to follow this way of eating. I also want to add in that my husband and I have both lost weight doing this diet. We both feel a ton better. I have lost 15 pounds. My husband has lost probably 17 or 18 pounds doing this. Neither of us snore anymore, which we just were talking about that the other day. I know I had noticed that he didn't snore anymore. He didn't notice that I didn't snore anymore. So that's a benefit of this that we have had happen for us. Another thing he said was that I used to have terrible breath in the morning, and I do not have bad breath in the morning anymore, which is nice. We no longer have all of the achy joints and bones that we used to have. I also went through a stage last month where I was making homemade bread, and I was eating some homemade bread, and I thought, it's once a week, it'll be fine, it won't affect anything. And it really did affect quite a bit. It affected my hormones a lot, affected my attitude. I have been much more joyful and happy, which my husband also mentioned that yesterday without me prompting him at all. My attitude and my demeanor, my depression, my anxiety have gone away doing this type of eating. He said he almost feels like I was a different person all summer because I was just so happy and joyful, where I noticed when I did start eating that bread even once a week, even homemade bread made with fresh ground flour, my mental attitude and emotions were a roller coaster. I mean, just a mess. And so even that, I don't know how many times I have to go through that roller coaster to realize I don't like it. I don't want to be in tears all the time for no reason, not knowing why I'm crying or always thinking the worst of things or that kind of stuff. And so avoiding the foods that are not good for me, that my body doesn't do well with, is a way that I can keep from being on that roller coaster. And so I do plan to try to stick with this the best that I can. My husband also, no achiness, no heartburn has gone. Energy levels are increased. It did take me a lot longer to get more energy than it did him, and that's something else I noticed when I started eating the bread, was my energy levels in the afternoon just tanked. And when I don't eat the bread, I have fantastic energy all day long. that has been a blessing. But it took me a while to get to that point. My husband was right away. It took me a little while to get there. He also did not really have keto flu, and I did. My body ached, my legs ached like crazy. Pretty sure I had oxalate dumping. I did eat a lot more vegetables than he did before we started this, and so I had some oxalate dumping where just for like 3 or 4 days my legs just ached like crazy to the point that I couldn't sleep. They were hurting so bad. But after I got past that point, it went away. I also went through a stage of cramping. My foot cramped a lot, especially after I hurt it when I was swimming, and the same foot just cramped often. I noticed that when I didn't drink enough electrolytes, it did that, but I also have not been drinking many electrolytes lately, and it hasn't been cramping. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on with my foot, but some cramping things I did have some issues with. So that's another reason to make sure you're drinking your electrolytes so that you're not struggling with those cramps. Make sure those Element electrolyte packets also have potassium and magnesium in them, which is very helpful in preventing cramping. Another thing that we will do, so I'm going to get past lunch now. That was talking all about lunch. After lunch, like I said, my husband and I typically don't eat dinner. We're usually not super hungry. What we do is have ice cream. We eat Carnivore ice cream often. We used to eat it almost every single day. I now am to the point that I don't need to eat it every single day. I will sometimes have it in the afternoons, and it's good and I do enjoy it. I don't eat nearly as much as I used to of it. But Carnivore ice cream is so easy. I will leave a link down in the description box for you for that. Cream, eggs, vanilla, salt, and that can be it basically. You also can add some sweetener in there if you want to. You could add peppermint extract if you're okay with some extracts. You can spice it up to make it how you like it, but it really is very satisfying just having cream, eggs, vanilla, and salt. And then you make that in your ice cream maker. I'll leave a link in the description box for one of those, the same one that I have and I use almost daily. Works wonderful. So anyway, ice cream is something we will have in the afternoon or the evening if we feel like we need to have something to eat instead of eating a full meal. If you feel like you need a full meal by the end of the day, even after you've eaten breakfast and lunch, don't deprive yourself. Eat when you are hungry. When you first start doing this, your body needs to adjust itself from being used to having all of this carb intake to making energy off of only fat. And so you need to just eat when you're hungry, eat as much as you want until you are full, until your food doesn't taste good anymore, and then stop. For dinner, you can have the same options that you did for lunch. You could either make extra at lunchtime and eat the leftovers, or you could make a whole new meal if you want some variety, or you could have breakfast at dinner time if you don't normally eat breakfast. So there's lots of options. It really is pretty simple because you have a lot of options, but you also don't have a lot of options. Like you can have some meat and some dairy and that's it. But the way you make the options is how you put those together to make a meal. Hopefully that was helpful. I feel like I was talking super fast. My battery's about to die on my phone, so I'm trying to get done with this really quickly. But make sure you leave any questions you have down below. Hopefully this was helpful for somebody out there and you enjoyed watching. Thanks for being here, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.